The brand new head of the Federal Reserve just held his very first meeting, and he did something none of us had expected. Inflation just hit a 3-year high, and right here in West Michigan, one county just posted numbers that are bucking the national trend completely. I've got the Fed news, I've got the local numbers, and I've got what it actually means for you. Let's get into it. Welcome to the West Michigan Real Estate Adventures channel. This is the market update for June 2026. My name is Craig Davis and I'm your host. Every single week right here on this channel, we're going to break down what's actually happening in West Michigan housing market. No fluff, no hype, just real numbers and real talk. Today, this is episode 1. If you're here from the very beginning, welcome. You found this early, and I think you're going to be glad you did. We're covering Muskegon County and Ottawa County in depth today with a quick pulse check on Kent County and the state as a whole. Let's start with the number that affects everybody watching this video. Mortgage rates. The number that determines how much house you can actually afford. As of this week, according to the Freddie Mac official survey, the national average on a 30-year fixed mortgage is 6.47%. 6.5 roughly. Let that number sink in for a second. Here's the context that matters. A year ago, this exact time, that same 30-year rate was sitting at 6.81%. So we are actually lower than we were 12 months ago, even with everything going on with the Fed this month. And here's something worth noting. Rates actually ticked down slightly this past week, not up. That might surprise you, given what just happened at the Federal Reserve. So let's talk about that. Because there's a new sheriff in town, and his first week on the job was a big one. Quick lesson, and I promise I'll keep it quick. The Federal Reserve set something called the federal funds rate. That's the rate banks charge each other for overnight loans. It is not the same thing as your mortgage rate, which actually follows the 10-year Treasury bond. But the Fed's tone and the direction absolutely influence where mortgage rates end up. Think of the Fed as the thermostat in the room. It doesn't blow air on you directly, but it sets the temperature for everything else. Kevin Warsh was sworn in last month as the 17th chair of the Federal Reserve, and on June 17th, just last week, about 10 days ago, he ran his very first meeting. Here's what happened. The Fed held rates steady at 3.5 to 3.75%. That part was expected. What wasn't fully expected was how he ran the meeting. Warsh dramatically shortened the Fed's official statement from 341 words down to just 130. He also refused to submit his own projection on the famous dot plot, the chart that shows where each Fed official thinks rates are headed. He said, in his own words, that forward guidance, quote, is not helpful in the conduct of policy, unquote. And here's the part that matters most for you. The rest of the committee's projections flipped. Back in March, the average forecast was for a rate cut later this year. Now, the median projection shows the Fed ending the year higher than it is today, and markets are pricing in a real chance the next move is a hike and not a cut. Why? Well, one word, inflation. May's reading came in at 4.2%, and this is the highest in 3 years. This is driven largely by energy prices tied to the conflict overseas. Core inflation, which strips out food and energy, is running at 2.9%. Both numbers are moving in the wrong direction for anyone hoping for a quick drop in rates. Bottom line for you as a buyer or seller, don't bank on a big rate drop this year. The new Fed chair wants to move towards lower rates eventually, but inflation is fighting him right now. We'll track this every single week. This week's number, 4.2%. That's the latest inflation reading, the Consumer Price Index, for the year ending in May. It's the highest it's been since April of 2023. Here's why you should care, in plain English. When inflation runs hot, the Fed is far less likely to cut rates, and mortgage rates tend to follow the Fed's mood. So this one number is a big part of why we're not seeing rates fall the way some people hoped at the start of this year. Let's zoom out for a second before going local. Statewide, Michigan's median sale price is sitting at roughly $294,000. This is up 5.4% year over year. Homes are taking about 33 days on average to sell, and inventory sits around 3 months of supply. Translation: this is still a market that favors sellers, just not as aggressively as a couple of years ago. And now for Ottawa County, Grand Haven, Holland, Zeeland, and Hudsonville. This continues to be one of the strongest markets in West Michigan. The median sale price in Ottawa County came in at $424,000 in May, according to the West Michigan Lakeshore Association of Realtors. That's down just slightly, about 0.5% from a year ago, which tells you the market is stabilizing, not overheating. Homes are selling fast, just 26 days on market on average. Sales volume held essentially flat at 219 closed sales, while active listings actually dropped 12% from a year ago, meaning there's less to choose from right now if you're house hunting in Ottawa County. Total dollar volume for the county came in at $106 million for the month. Ottawa County sellers, you're still sitting in a strong position. Pricing matters more than it did 2 years ago, but demand is real and inventory is tight. Now Muskegon, this is my backyard, and the numbers here genuinely surprised me this month. The median sale price in Muskegon County hit $253,000 in May. This is up 3.1% from a year ago. That's actually outpacing Ottawa County's growth rate. Here's a number that needs context. Closed sales were down 33% compared to May of last year. Only 146 homes sold. That sounds alarming on its own, but look at the rest of the picture. Days on market only ticked up modestly to 29 days. Active listings are actually up 6.3%, and prices are still climbing. That's not a market falling apart. That's a market where fewer transactions are happening, but the ones that are happening are holding their value and then some. Dollar volume for the month came in at $42 million. If you're a first-time buyer or you're relocating to West Michigan and want Lake Michigan access without Ottawa County price tags, Muskegon deserves a serious look right now. One more quick pulse check. Grand Rapids and Kent County. The median sale price is running around $300,000, up 3.4% year over year, and homes are moving fast, about 6 days on market on average, with the typical home getting around 6 competing offers. If Ottawa County's price tag is out of reach, Grand Rapids is clearly where a lot of buyers are landing instead. Let's bring it all together, because data without context is just noise. If you're a buyer right now, rates are in the mid-6s, and the new Fed chair just signaled we may not see relief this year, and possibly the opposite. Waiting for a dramatic rate drop could mean missing today's prices, especially in Muskegon County, where values are still climbing even as sales volume cools. My take? Understand what you can afford at today's rates. If rates do drop later, refinancing is always on the table. You can't refinance a house that you didn't buy, however. If you're a seller right now, the market is still working in your favor, especially in Ottawa and Muskegon counties. Days on the market are still historically low in both, but buyers are more selective than they were 2 years ago. Accurate pricing and good presentation matter more than ever now. Here's my honest personal take, and this is just an opinion as someone watching this market closely, not professional advice. What stands out to me about Muskegon County right now is the gap between sales volume and price. Usually when sales drop a third, you'd expect prices to follow. They haven't. To me, that says the buyers who are active in this market right now are serious, they're qualified, and they're not walking away over a rate in the 6s. That's a healthier signal than a lot of people give this market credit for. That's your West Michigan Real Estate Adventures Market Report for June 27th. Episode 1 is in the books. I'm Craig Davis, and I'll be right back here next week with fresh numbers, fresh insight, and probably a few more surprises out of Washington. If this was helpful, and I think it was, hit that subscribe button. Seriously, it only takes 2 seconds, and it means you won't miss a single report. Drop a comment down below and tell me what you want covered next. First-time buyer tips, a deeper dive on Muskegon neighborhoods, you tell me, and I'll show up for you next week. And if you have any questions, include those, and I will start a segment answering questions. And hey, if you If you found even one number in this video useful, a thumbs up helps this channel more than you think. It costs you nothing, and it tells me to keep doing exactly this. I'll see you next week. Same time, same mission. Let's keep building.